What's up, guys? Welcome to I'm Outraged, episode 25. 25. We are a quarter of a way to 100. I should have gone halfway to 50. Makes more sense. 100 is a long time from now. We're going one a week. Literally, for me to get to 100 from here, that is, that's a year and a half from now. That seems like a long time. Like a long time from now. But when I hit the 100th episode, I'm going to do some off-the-wall stuff. I'll probably do it at 50. Yeah, fuck it, I'll do it at 30. We'll do something at 30. We'll pop some confetti in here because I made it to 30. Because, it's hard to sustain something. It's hard to stay on track with something and continue on that path and get to a goal. I don't know what my goal is right now. My goal is to make fun content and help you guys behind the scenes. Speaking of which, I get a lot of messages on Patreon from you guys, trade questions. A lot of people are going through redraft leagues right now. So kind of what players should I drop? Hey, I'm drafting from this spot. What do you think about this? And I'm literally answering everybody. And as I've said to you guys so many times, I try to make myself available, and I should not have ever missed a message from anybody. Sometimes my day gets a little convoluted, and I don't get back to people for 5, 6, 7 hours at times, which it's difficult, but I try to get in touch with everybody. And by then, sometimes I have people that go, dang, I pulled the trigger on that trade. They sent me a deal and said, hey, what do you think about this? And you know how it goes. Sometimes you just want to make a deal. You want an answer, but you don't want to sit around for 5 hours waiting for Nate List to get back to you. So I try to do my best, guys, and I have responded to everybody, as far as I know, since the beginning of this thing. And what's really fucking with me right now is there's a fly in here, and I got these lights on, and it's like staying up in the lights where I can't. It's not even a big fly either. It's not enough to make noise. It doesn't trigger all your senses. I'm not hearing it and I'm not feeling it, but I'm seeing it, right? Obviously I cannot smell it. That would be a problem. But I can't keep an eye on this thing to kill it because the lights, but it keeps flying in and out of my peripheral, and it's seriously driving me nuts. So at some point in this podcast, you may hear me take this this 50-ring binder over here that I've got, or this roll of, this paper, which I write my counterpoints to Matt Kelly on. So when we're doing a podcast and I disagree with something that he said, which is almost all the time, I write it down on here because I want to make sure that when he's done talking, which is 30 or 40 minutes later, I can remember what it was that I wanted to counter with. Because I've told Matt this before, and he knows it. It's a tactic. It's like a filibuster tactic. When you interject and you talk and you change the point and you move so far away from where you originally were that A, you dilute the point that the person was trying to make, and B, by that point, you've changed the whole conversation. So I always bring this up to him that I know the tactic. I'm going to bring him back to the point that I was making, so I write that down. But the point that I'm telling you is at some point during this podcast, I may take a swing, knock over the mic, knock down the camera. I got all this light. I got lights everywhere. So it could get chaotic. But that's where we're at. That's what you get with this podcast. You never know what's going to happen. And may God have mercy on this fly. In other news, I've hit a music rut. So I've hit a rut with my my workout music, the music that I listen to when I write, music that I listen to when I drive to and from work, whatever it is, I like to listen to music. I'm an audiophile, and I do appreciate music of all sorts. Country, a lot of people hate that. I found myself listening to a lot of country here the last 10 years of my life. Rap, of course, that's where my come up was. If you guys don't know, big time rapper here. And I kind of listen to a very eclectic bunch of stuff, but I've hit this rut, right? I've listened to every playlist. I've listened to every new rap song that's out there. And I don't personally identify with a lot of the rap music that's out there, right? I struggle to. But at the same time, the music that I enjoy nowadays, admittedly, Drake, J. Cole, some of these other guys, some of their music at times is a little subdued, a little soft. It's hard to work out to music when it's going to make you cry. Like everything that Drake does sounds like he's crying and then I'm crying and now we're both crying and I'm trying to work out and I'm like, well, this doesn't work. You can't work out while you're crying. I mean, I don't know. If one of you guys has found like some significant like data point that shows that crying during workouts increases like muscle growth and drive and stuff like that, then let me know. Link me to it. Because then maybe I'd consider it. But I don't want to cry, but I've been recently shuffling through my Spotify playlist and I hit a rut. I could not find something to listen to. And suddenly it hit me. I got this burning sensation in my soul that I needed to listen to a group that in most circles you do not admit to enjoying. You don't bring it up. Here's the thing though. For those of you that are aware of this group, that have clearly heard this group, there's no way you haven't heard a single from this group. That's an impossibility. There's no way. But for those of you that know this group, you know as well as I do that you would never admit that you listen to them because your friends, whomever, is going to be like, what? Who listens to that? Nobody listens to them anymore. They haven't been anything for 15 years, 18 years. I don't know how many years. So I found myself recently in a rut, and I thought, screw it. I'm going to pull the ripcord. I'm going to go back to music that aligned with different parts of my life, and I started listening to Nickelback. And I swear to God, my workouts got better. My commute got better. I don't know what it is. Look, Nickelback is incredibly annoying. Chad Kroeger, I always made this joke that like Dave Grohl from, God, now I'm forgetting the name. Anyways, Dave Grohl, Chad Kroeger, all these guys, if they were like in a library trying to have a conversation because they're like notorious yellers, right, with their music, like, look at this photograph, right? Like they're like, it's very guttural. It's a lot of energy. Like these guys there's no way they could like whisper in a library, right? They're always fucking screaming. And so I don't know what it is about Nickelback, but I like the music. My ears and my brain are like, hey, we like this. We don't want to tell anybody we like it, but we enjoy it. So recently I've had this big kick. I've been listening to Nickelback. I've been having flashbacks to, I think they have a song called Rockstar, maybe where Chad Kroeger wants to play baseball in a bathroom the size of a baseball field. Well, I'm not sure that exists, but good luck to him to find that. Then, of course, he's got the song Photograph, where he's talking about looking at photographs because, to my knowledge, at this point, that's the only thing you can do with a photograph. Again, if you know something different, please let me know. And then he's got, they got a bunch of other songs. Okay, look, I don't care what you say. Go listen to Nickelback's like top 5 radio songs, and you'll be like, this is actually pretty good. You don't want anybody to know that you're listening to it, but they're pretty good. So that's my challenge to you. Go listen to Nickelback, and if I'm wrong, tell me I suck, okay? But if you enjoy even one song, tell me I was right. Because everybody just hates Nickelback. It's like automatic, right? Like you just have to say you hate Nickelback. Like you have to say you hate Tom Brady. I say I hate Tom Brady because the Seahawks blew a Super Bowl, and I already didn't like the guy. I always hated Tom Brady, but it's like automatic. You just kind of have to say it. So that's where I'm at. Music sucks right now. Nickelback is the only thing that's working for me. Rap music is dead to me. I'm struggling to find any semblance of ground right now. And the only thing that I have to look forward to is that we are closing in on the regular season. We're so close. I've been saying this for weeks now, like we're getting close. I think we're moving forward. We're actually getting very close now. We have a football game on September 10th. That is a Thursday night. I am looking at my watch right now. Today is August 30th, just to give you perspective on when I'm recording. This is going to drop on Tuesday, which is going to be the 1st of September, I think. So if you're listening to this, I believe it's the 1st of September. We have a Thursday night game. The Kansas City Chiefs against the Houston Texans for the fate of the world. It's coming. I am so excited because this offseason has been atrocious. We're going to get into more of this, but we've had this condensed, limited, almost non-existent training camp. Even though training camps are going on, they feel like they're not going on. The exposure to them feels less than it has in the past. I feel like we're not getting the inside view. The information is diluted. It's soft. It's just not enough to make the informed decisions that we used to make. Because we're altering data points. We used to use some of this coach speak and some of this preseason information and preseason snaps. We don't have it anymore. So we're making snap judgments on things. We're trying to glean information from what we see, but we can't believe any of it. We don't know if this Chris Thompson goal line bullshit over Leonard Fournette is real. I don't know. There hasn't even been a preseason. There's going to be no preseason games. There's hardly been practices. I believe Chris Thompson is washed. I don't know. I can't tell you what this is. I believe it's nothing. I believe they are practicing out of the red zone. I believe he'll be used in specific plays. I don't know why you wouldn't put Leonard Fournette back there. But the point is that we can't glean the information the way that we once did. We're looking through a different lens at the offseason now. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But what I do love is that we are closing in on the regular season, and we're so close to the regular season that I can smell that faint hint of like pumpkin spice in the air. I mean, that's when I know. That's when I know that we are in the thick of the NFL football season, because at that point, my house suddenly reeks of pumpkin spice, and my wife is just stomping around the house in a pair of tan Uggs like Tom Brady throwing a temper tantrum. That's 2 Tom Brady references in one episode, if you guys are keeping track at home. So she's stomping around the house in a pair of Uggs. She's a very nice lady. Actually, she never gets mad at me. I swear to God, we've never had a fight. Never had like a real fight. Like couples fight, and I'm not like a marriage counselor here, but we've never had like a blowout fight because somebody always concedes. I mean, obviously, I'm probably really good at conceding. You guys have seen all my arguments with Matt Kelly. Some of them go to the death to my own detriment. Some of them I feel like I've won, but most of the time I'm like, look, I can't do this. I don't have the energy. There's not enough daylight left in the day to have this fight, Matt. So it's the same thing. But the thing about the Uggs that drives me nuts is like, they're not house shoes, right? I don't wear anything but a pair of sandals through my house, pair of house shoes, whatever. I try to keep the floors of my house relatively clean. I'm a bit of a germaphobe in that sense. Like, I don't have to wash my hands like Howie Mandel every 3 seconds, but I like to be clean. I like to keep the house clean. But I've got this mass confusion with the Uggs because the Uggs are like this hybrid shoe, right? They're like a house slipper / boot thing, whatever they are. There's absolutely no support for your ankles. But the problem with them is people will wear them outside, right? And they'll step in literally anything. They're walking around like a regular pair of shoes, step in gum, step in dirt, step in spent cigarettes, step in dog shit, you name it. They step in everything. They're Uggs. They're getting treated like shoes. But then people treat them like a pair of house shoes or slippers just because these things are filled with some sort of like fur-like material and they're pliable like house slippers. People treat them like an all-terrain vehicle and go from the filthy outdoors right into a clean house. I don't understand it. Listen, Uggs are either an indoor shoe or an outdoor shoe, but there's no in between. And again, I know some of you guys are like, listen, man, I walk through my house with the same shoes that I wear outside. Listen, that's fine. I take my shoes off when I go to someone else's house. Have you had that awkward thing where you show up at someone's house and you're like taking your shoes off, you're taking a shoe off with your other foot, and they're like, nah, man, it's good. You just walk on in, you're fine. And I'm like, no. I'm not walking through your house with my shoes on. I'm not going to walk through my own house with my shoes on. I appreciate that you're inviting me to walk into your house with my shoes on, but you don't know where my shoes have been. Fuck, I don't know where my shoes have been. So I'm not walking through your house. So that's one of these things that I just don't understand. And I think about this all the time. I don't know why I haven't brought that up till now. But the only thing worse than the pumpkin spice sensory overload during the NFL season is the injuries. And thus far in the preseason, they've been stacking up. So tell me this, the loss of training camp, the preseason drilling, the team activities that didn't take place, that they didn't matter, those clearly mattered. They absolutely mattered. And I wish somebody could convince me based on a data point that it didn't matter. But we're seeing firsthand that this absolutely mattered because, let's start at the top. DeAndre Swift left practice with a mysterious knee injury that we still don't know much about, and he hasn't returned for the better part of 2 weeks. Fuck me. How does this happen? So Kerryon Johnson, who's finally healthy enough and a very capable number 2 back. I talked with Matt on the last podcast about this. I think that Kerryon Johnson is one of the better number 2 backs in the league when healthy. Again, go back to 2018, see what he did. Second round pick, still young. It's a very interesting situation what we have taking place in Detroit. We all agree that DeAndre Swift is the guy to own. But this was a system when DeAndre Swift was selected that there was a fear all along of the potential of a committee backfield. And we appear to be on a crash course with the potential for that. At a minimum, for the first part of the NFL season, if not longer, we could see this committee backfield if Kerryon Johnson comes out of the gate running well with an understanding of a system that DeAndre Swift doesn't know yet. It could make 2020 a very interesting year for DeAndre Swift. Now, again, brought this up on the last podcast with Matt, still buying DeAndre Swift. Okay, this is dynasty. You're still buying DeAndre Swift. I don't care if DeAndre Swift had 1 NFL carry this year. Look at Darius Geis. Darius Geis was going in the 4th, 5th round of startup drafts. He hadn't played in 2 years. We never even saw the guy on the field. Think about the value that Darius Geis had. Now translate that to DeAndre Swift. It doesn't matter if he doesn't play a snap this year. He's still valuable. So if you can get him at a discount, you should definitely do it. But here's a quote from Darrell Bevel in regards to the injury and the situation circulating around DeAndre Swift. It reads, "It's not ideal. We'll say that. There's a lot of these rookies, or there's a lot on these rookies' plates right now, just in terms of everything new for them. Obviously, he's trying to pick up a whole new offense, and he didn't have the offseason. I think that's what's so critical. Every day that we miss, I think it puts you further behind, because in terms of not just knowing your assignments, but then how your assignments fit to each and every one of the looks that you can get from a defense." It goes on. "It's one thing to see them on paper. It's another thing to see them on tape. But it's another thing to go out there and actually execute what you're supposed to execute, making the decisions that you're supposed to make at a quick level, and he's missing all of those reps." That's from Darrell Bevel. Listen, man, we want to believe at the NFL level that these rookies with high draft pedigree are just going to get a shot. But we see it so often. That isn't the case. NFL teams want to win. These coaches have been playing football and coaching football for so long. They know what it looks like to be prepared, to be ready. They're not going to put a player that's not ready on the field. Even if DeAndre Swift instinctually is 1,000 times better than Kerryon Johnson, but Kerryon Johnson can uphold the offense better, understands the offensive scheme, the pass protection schemes, has better rapport with his quarterback. All these things are going to matter. So DeAndre Swift may be a slower, come along than we thought, because these injuries are really screwing things up. And I initially tweeted something when Roto World had mentioned in a report that DeAndre Swift was injured, and people were flying into my mentions like, "Oh, it's only 1 day. He'll be back next practice." Guys, it's been almost 2 weeks. He's not back yet. He may be back by week 1, but it's safe to say that there very well could be a committee backfield approach. Does not matter to me all that much. Still a big fan of DeAndre Swift in Dynasty. Still selecting him where I can. He's still a value. He's even more of a value if you're doing startups now, obviously. The fear of this information. We don't even know what it is yet, specifically. But this is the kind of information that creates fear-mongering that you can then go buy in on DeAndre Swift with somebody. Make a flip. Go find another player that they're interested in. Package up and go get DeAndre Swift. This is another buy low opportunity for DeAndre Swift. We've heard him compared to Alvin Kamara. They think that that's how Detroit could use him. Yet to be seen in Darrell Bevel's profile if that will ever happen, but anything is possible. DeAndre Swift clearly has the skill set to be a player of that level, and we hope that he gets the opportunity to prove that, but likely we don't see that ceiling in 2020. And then this title reads, "Jalen Reagor likely to miss 4 weeks of practice with a shoulder injury." Fuck me. This means we likely don't see Jalen Reagor until October. This is some truly unfortunate news after the early season trajectory that we saw with him, right? The Eagles needed help. They went out and selected him very early in the NFL draft. He was a day one selection. There was a lot of analysts out there that didn't believe he'd be a day one selection based on his final year production at TCU, but we can attribute that to bad quarterback play. Go back to his sophomore year. You can see a lot more. Look at his athleticism. There was a lot more to pull from his profile to round out your assessment of the prospect. But what's crazy is he wasn't hurt diving for the ball. He wasn't hurt making a cut in the open field. He wasn't even hurt while attempting to hurdle the hot dog vendor. No. Jalen Reagor, he was hurt attempting to tackle somebody after Jalen Hurts threw an interception during practice. And the coaches are like, Jalen, what are you doing? You're playing hard. We respect that. We want that from you. But this team is beat up. Arcega-Whiteside? He can't do anything. We don't want him on the field. We want you on the field. Let somebody else make that tackle. But Jalen made the tackle and sustained a fairly significant injury. I mean, at this point in time, there's no record, at least when I'm recording this, of specifically what the injury is because they have not received the results of the MRI. But again, there's speculation that he will miss at least 4 weeks, which would bleed into the regular season. And again, these are rookies that had a messed up offseason as it is, and missing more training camp and more reps and more opportunity and now real games. It's not the start that you want from the players that you drafted in the top 10 in your rookie drafts, but here we are nonetheless. So Jalen Reagor, one of the big injury stories so far in the preseason. So we lost Swift for a little bit. We lost Reagor for a little bit. We're going to get through this. We're going to move on. It's got to be the end of it. But it's not. It's not the end of it. T. Higgins has had a nagging hamstring injury. Fuck me. But it sounds like he's working his way back to full speed. Yet, like all of these guys, missing time is not good. And T. Higgins was one of these players, like Bryan Edwards, like Laviska Shenault, that the breakout finder loved. Right? He had a 51.3 breakout rating. He was number 4 in the class. This was the guy. This was the next guy to pop. Okay? It was going to be Shenault. It was going to be Edwards. And it was going to be Higgins. And these three guys were all second-round picks in rookie drafts. And they were going to suddenly become available at with more value than you would ever expected. That these guys, you grab them in the middle of the second round, and suddenly they're creeping into first-round value. They're jumping ahead of a multitude of other receivers at the same point. So I was a big fan. I mean, of course, Higgins was a day 2 pick. He was the first pick, though, to the Cincinnati Bengals. They had all day. They had all day, all night to think about this pick. They were sitting there at 201. They came back. They didn't trade it. They took T. Higgins, okay? The Cincinnati Bengals took T. Higgins. And, it's funny. Matt Kelly always tells me that I say Bengals weird. Isn't that how you say? Isn't that what it is? Isn't it? Is it Bengals? Isn't it Bengals? When I say Bengals, I am saying not like B-A-N-G. I am saying bang like it's B-E-N-G. But nonetheless, apparently I say that wrong. I didn't think I did, but apparently I do. And Cincinnati clearly thought that Higgins was going to be the wide receiver that they were going to pair with Joe Burrow for the foreseeable future. That's why they took him there. They took Burrow, obviously, first pick in the draft. They're going to nail this pick. Joe Burrow is going to save this organization. And they were going to pair him with T. Higgins. That was the future. That was your 1-2 punch in Cincinnati. But he had already missed a lot of practice with this injury. But fortunately for Higgins, who again is working his way back, A.J. Green has been missing time. John Ross has been missing time. And this is why Auden Tate has suddenly made enough noise that it's become unavoidable. This is why we're talking about him on podcasts. Now, admittedly, I am not a big fan of Auden Tate, but there are people out there that are truthers. Fusuvu, truther. He also said that Leonard Fournette was like the number 27 back in his running back class, and I'm not sure how that's possible. But we can't get them all right. And then I go through the list some more, and I'm like, okay, so that's 3 guys. There can't be any more injuries to these rookies. And then I read KJ Hamler to miss 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Fuck me. Another sneaky option in this rookie class. Look, Hamler came in well above the 20.0 breakout rating threshold with a 31.4. Yes, he landed on a depth chart that is overloaded with wide receivers. I know there's always a knock on saying too many mouths to feed, but listen, when Locke is your quarterback and you clearly look like you want to run the ball and you're a wide receiver who's surrounded by that much talent, it's going to be tough to come across targets. But we believe that KJ Hamler was going to get opportunity. But speculation currently is that Hamler could miss as much as a month of football. And again, these types of injuries, such as his, a hamstring injury, can linger much longer than we think. It can truly limit a player's ability. This could hinder his year one potential. We know that, and he's already trapped in what I would regard as a touch squeeze with Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Fant and all these other players. There's a lot of talent there. We just hope this isn't the case for Hamler, but you're looking at least 4 weeks before he returns from the hamstring injury, so it's not good. But I assume it's got to be over. There can't possibly be any more players from this rookie class that have an injury preseason because we haven't even made it to regular games yet. We're just on the outside looking in at this point, and then I read that a sneaky deep name that I talked about a few months back on a podcast, Isaiah Coulter, he's joining the party with a neck injury of his own. Fuck me. How does this happen? Coulter had already missed several practices, and then just recently things went from good to bad all over again, and he went back off the field and out of practice. But Coulter was a late-round pick with a ton of upside in terms of athleticism and landing spot, right? He lands in Houston. And with the injury history potential to Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, there was a real chance that Coulter could have actually found his way onto the field year one. It was probable. One of those guys is going to get hurt, and he was one of the next men up. And I really did believe in him. But as far as his information, gleaning it from the internet, trying to dig it up, there is no timetable for his return. It's not a good look for a guy that was a fifth-round pick. He did have a lot of upside, but there's a lot of veteran depth on this roster already, so it was a slim chance that he was going to crack the field year one without injury. But as always, the group around him is one of the most brittle groups in the league. So opportunity is still possible, and he's probably even cheaper than he was before since he's been missing so much practice. And you would think to yourself, that's got to be where it ends. This has to be the end of the injuries, but we've got even bigger names. There's way bigger names of players that have been missing time. What about Denzel Mims, who's out with a hamstring injury, which he sustained prior to the team's very first practice, and since then has not seen the field once during training camp? Fuck me. This is bad news for Mims, okay? And clearly, the Jets are showing concern as they've reached out to Dante Moncrief, who is working a part-time job as a paper boy on his routes. Of course, I get a message from my wife as I'm doing this. Hold on. And then we find out that Denzel Mims is out with a hamstring injury, which he sustained prior to the team's very first practice, and since then has not been seen on the field once during training camp. This is bad news for Denzel Mims. Fuck me. Okay, and clearly the Jets are showing concern as they've reached out to Dante Moncrief, who is working a part-time job as a paperboy to work on his routes. Right? Get it? God, man, it's pathetic. I'm better than that. I'm going to come back stronger next week. Look, the Jets had high hopes for Denzel Mims, right? When they had selected him as a top 60 pick in the NFL draft. And as it stands right now, they literally have no timetable for his official return. Even if he does return, because he's currently working on the side of the field, as we've heard before, he's jogging a little bit, there remains skepticism about his role in 2020. That's not good. And we should be the most fearful. Look, this guy was a senior coming out. The Senior Bowl is what boosted him, similar to a Deebo Samuel or a Cooper Kupp. And the Jets needed help. There was potential early on that Denzel Mims was going to have the greatest workload of any wide receiver amongst this class. There was absolutely the potential for it. And there still could be. But this is certainly going to throttle his year one. We don't even know when he's coming back. Yikes. And you're like, this has to be it. This has to be the end of it. There cannot possibly be another injury to a rookie. But Brandon Ayuk, he sustained a hamstring injury. Fuck me. Another breakout finder favorite, and one that was sitting in a prime position to have a significant year one role, which he still absolutely can, as his injury appears to be one of the least severe of the entire class. Thank God, right? Thank God we get at least one rookie that got hurt but appears that he's going to bounce back before week one. Because in San Francisco, with the injuries to Debo and Jalen Hurd, the door was wide open for first-round pick Brandon Ayuk. Felt like a Shanahan favorite, right? This is what Debo was great at. Debo was number 5 at the position of yards after the catch. It's what George Kittle was great at. He was number 1 at the tight end position after the catch because Jimmy Garoppolo is so accurate. Like Tannehill is accurate. That's why Jonnu and A.J. Brown were high in yards after the catch. Just like Teddy Bridgewater is going to be with his accuracy, which is going to make DJ Moore great after the catch, which he was already trending that direction. So Brandon Ayuk was going to be a great fit in San Francisco, but now he has an injury, which though it's minor in relation to the others, it's still the type of injury that can show up again later. It's not what you want to see. The question remains how soon we are going to see him back. But again, at least this is the least long-term of all the absurd injuries that we have seen throughout the year. And as I'm wrapping up this podcast, I want to bow my head and I want to say a prayer as we enter the fantasy football season. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. So if everybody could close their eyes, don't do this if you're at the wheel, obviously. Here we go. Dear fantasy football gods, please look after all of our fantasy football assets. Keep our players upright in the 2020 season. May all of our rookie picks hit, except that guy in the league who's a complete nuisance. May his bust. Make sure that we can have a full 16 games this year. I don't want to miss games. I don't want to figure out how to divide the money that I plan to win, that we all plan to win. And if you could, please make sure that Clyde Edwards-Helaire absolutely destroys in 2020 so that I can show my face on Twitter and I do not have to delete my account. In your name, amen.